old ideas, really old. Some of them very, very old. Some of them outdated. And I also come today with some very big questions. First though, I have to thank two groups of people. The first is I received this, well, three groups of people actually. I received 3 sets of emails throughout. Can you leave the door open? Yeah. Throughout, it's hot in here, all these people. Throughout the weekend. The first came from countless numbers of, there you are. I was looking for your smile. I knew that. This guy, David, he's an engineer. He's fantastic. Stand up. You know me, I go off tangent all the time. I have a few hours this morning. David, I don't really know David. He showed up last year in my development course with that smile. And you know what else he showed up with? His engineering mind. Because we were struggling to figure out how this smart board works. Us anthropologists, we're not that smart. We don't know that stuff. And suddenly, David stands up. He's like, I know how to do that. I said, how do you know how to do that? He said, because I'm an engineering student. That was last semester. And now he's sitting in my class again this semester, like he is right now, with that big, lovely smile that is like emitting juice and energy. And this guy should be the LAS poster child. I nominate you. I'm going to keep looking at you. I need you. Okay, I didn't want to thank David, although thank you, David. I wanted to thank, well, I got all these emails from my students. You know, this is my normal teaching slot. And I got emails from my students telling me they're going on strike. All of them. And I thought, wow, I'm not going to stare. I mean, what am I going to do? So thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you for going on strike, I guess. The second thank you goes out to the executive board. Because shortly after I got all these emails that none of my students were going to show up to class, and I love my job, I love working, I thought, what am I going to do today? I got an email from the executive board, and that email said, we respect everyone's right to do anything, to strike or not to strike, to teach or not to teach. So I thought, okay, I'm not going on strike. I'm going to teach. So, how am I going to do that? And then came the third email from whoever organized this, a student who invited me to teach, to say something. I thought, oh, perfect. It's all lining up. I can still do my job. You guys can go on strike. Everyone's happy. So here I am. So thank you so much for the invitation to help facilitate some learning today in a different sort of way. So thank you for offering this space. Look at all these people here. It's incredible. You know, even though so much of the plans for our future here at UCR remain sort of top secret, one thing we do know that has been confirmed is that we will see the elimination of class size limits. I didn't expect to see that policy implemented so quickly. But here we are. For today, at least, for now, our small-scale and intensive education program must become large-scale and intensive. Right? But that's okay, right? We're going to handle this. We can do this. We know how to do this, I think. So right now, with all these people, let's begin experimenting with how we might be able to create our sort of beloved, usual UCR classroom ethos in this sort of large-scale setting. You all know, I made the front page of the paper anonymously, which was really cool. You guys sort of, you know, I loved what you all were doing last week when you were out here and you were making space. And one of the ways you make space is you did that sort of occupy thing, you know? That occupy space thing where you don't really clap because you're trying to not drown out the voices of anybody, but you show appreciation by clapping. That's cool. That's really cool. And I love that. You can do that too if you want. I'm a bit old school, as many of you know. And I also like a bit of rowdiness, so feel free to make some noise like we used to do. So I've been thinking over the weekend too much, maybe, about how to begin my lecture today, which is entitled Anthropological Theory is Practice, or Why Your Liberal Arts and Science Education Matters. And the subtitle of my lecture is A Farewell Lecture, most likely. I have to admit I submitted the title without knowing what it was going to be about. I admit it. And now that I've given it some thought, the title can still stay. But in hindsight now, I might rather have chosen to title it simply An Introduction. Or even simpler, maybe just Introductions in the plural. And that's because I was thinking about what I wanted and needed to say. As I was doing that, I kept getting stuck at the intro. I came up with so many different introductions and openings that I could get no further. So in order to enable me to move on and you to hopefully move on and also maybe accompany me, I decided that I'm just going to begin with my lecture with all of my openings. And my first opening goes something like this. Guys, we really need to talk. Yes, we need to talk. Us anthropologists are keenly aware of the fact that our ability as a species to talk to one another, to communicate, is one of the gifts we humans have been blessed with over all other members of the animal kingdom. Okay, maybe other animals are able to communicate with one another, but none of them to the extent and depth and nuance that us humans can. Us humans, us human beings, any Roald Dahl fans out there? Human beings. You know Roald Dahl? Us human beings seem to be losing that precious gift. We seem to talk with machines more than with one another. And if we're not talking directly with machines, then we allow those machines to mediate our communication in one way or another. Think about our so-called culture wars all over the world and the massive political fractures that have emerged in Europe and North America. Or think about how so many of us fall deep into those echo chambers where only messages we are willing to hear and only messages we are ever given access to are the ones that simply come out and reinforce our own worldviews. These echo chambers also reinforce us over and over again. They reinforce for us the idea that difference is a threat. So it seems to me that we are living in a world, no, let me correct that, a part of the world where more and more human beings are renouncing our species. And our species' very special gift of communication. And as we do that, we seem to be losing our ability to connect with and to encounter difference. We are limiting our opportunities to connect with difference. I mean, really, we've even built machines to filter out all of that difference via those silent algorithms that are in all of our pockets. They're filtering out all of those differing views before they even reach us. And all that filtering means we are limiting our opportunities to exchange with difference, and to share with difference, and to learn from difference. And this is really probably the most important point. It's limiting our ability to be changed by difference. At the same time, it seems to me that in addition to the various sort of social, cultural, political, and technological forces that seem to so invisibly propel us in that direction away from communication, those disciplinary forces, we also seem to be learning how to limit ourselves directly. For all of you Foucault fans, we're governing ourselves when it comes to communication. As individual agents, we not only choose not to engage with difference, but we also choose to not communicate. Because I think it's becoming too risky. We think, you think, I see it in my classes all the time. I may be hated for what I think. I might be canceled. I may be accused of being stupid. I may be misunderstood. I may offend someone else. We all choose to limit our own ability to communicate. From my anthropological vantage point, in this part of the world, at this particular time, we also seem to be less willing to engage with and make use of another one of our species, our great species, our gifts as a species. And that gift is our sociability. We Homo sapiens sapiens are social. We need one another. We achieve great things. We have achieved great things. We can achieve great things because, and only because, we are social animals. There's this wonderful little expression in South Africa and in Namibia, probably elsewhere in the southern part of that continent, which captures this so beautifully. People there say, you cannot be human alone. It's an expression. You cannot be human alone. But in our current moment, in these parts of the world, in our part of the world, we seem to be turning our back on this trait. And that insight is so nicely captured, is so understood, is so normative in the lives of our friends in Southern Africa. Let me tell you a funny story, an apt story. It's a true story. It's unbelievable. I find it unbelievable, but it's absolutely true, and it happened this morning on our drive to work. And I promise you, I'm not making it up. I have a witness here in the back of me. My wife and I are sitting in the car. We're cruising down the A58, heading for Middleburg, heading for UCR. At a slow, steady pace. A bit too slow for my wife, but just the way I like it. 2 kilometers above the speed limit. just pushing the envelope just a little bit over the line. I'm in the right lane, of course. All of a sudden, to our left, this fast, black BMW goes past. The guy must be going 120, right? It's a 100 zone, 100. I'm driving 102. He doesn't give a shit about the rules. They're put in place by the people we elect for all of us, for the environment, for our safety. Black BMW driver doesn't give a shit. Now this is the incredible part of the story. I kid you not. He blows past. I see black car, like all those guys. BMW, like most of those guys. And then on the license plate, you know what the license plate says? You won't believe it. It has 2 letters on it. It says, me. I kid you not. I'm not making this up. Fatima. It says me on it. Me.
Yeah. You can do this in Belgium, huh? Buy your own license plate.
Huh?
You can do this in Belgium. Buy your own license plate.
Was it a Belgian driver? I think it was a Belgian driver. That's okay, that's good. It was a Belgian driver. Me. Me. And I'm sitting there driving, and I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to talk about today? I got to write this lecture. And I'm thinking about this stuff that I'm already starting to talk to you about. And I'm sitting there with my wife, who I love so much. We've shared everything together for 30 years. Everything. We walked in the front door of this university together. We were interviewed here together. They didn't know we were together when they hired us. We've done everything together. And I'm sitting there with her. We are sitting there. Us is sitting there. We're driving down the A48. And we can't keep up with me. He's gone. It's us chasing me. I'm like, this is crazy. This is a sign. That does not happen in real life. It's crazy. And you see, we all want to be individuals today. It seems to me. It seems to
Us.
him. It seems to those of us. We want to think about ourselves to show and emphasize and project what makes me so unique. We are so busy. You are so busy. We are so busy these days trying to answer the question, what makes me different from you? And this, I think, is one of late neoliberalism's emerging cancers. That question, that obsession, all the energy that question is sapping out of us. So really, people, we need to talk. Don't get me wrong, it's not your fault. Not at all. It's just the way it's working out. Massive changes in society and culture over the past 50 years, over the past 500 years, have simply brought us to this point. Let me stay closer to the present for a minute. Simple example, technology. For all intents and purposes, the algorithms of our life, they're humming away in the background, always. Thank you, data scientists. Where's our data scientist? Okay, I'm going to hit on you. Thank you, data scientists. Humming. These algorithms are ensuring, they are disposing us to become individuals. All those algorithms are continually telling us that we are unique and different from everyone else. We know that because Google and Meta and TikTok are actually able to see and treat You and me and us as individuals. We're getting used to that. The ads you're getting are different than the ads I'm getting. We are individuals. And our new algorithms are leading us, I think, to turn our back on our own species' gift of sociality. They're continually reinforcing and disposing us all to turn our backs on our sociality. They're disposing us, again to borrow from Foucault for you fans, to thinking about the essence of our species as a compilation of individuals first and foremost. Anthropology revealed already a long time ago, a century ago, that this rendition of the self, of personhood, is an absolute social and cultural construction. Long time ago. Old news. Even today, there are countless people all around the world, maybe some of you come from there, where the pronoun I doesn't even exist. For these groups, there's only us. There is no I. So please don't get me wrong when I share some of my observations. There is no grand conspiracy here. This is simple social, cultural, historical, economical, scientific process doing what it does in our particular time and place. And here, for me, is one of the big problems. When we as a society, when we as a small little community, one that's tucked away on this small little island, on the margins of this small little country, when we focus so intrinsically on me, on my uniqueness, on my unique needs, on my special ways, we inevitably stop focusing on something else. We stop focusing on us. When we spend so much of our time and energy trying to answer the question, what makes me unique? I mean, where did that question come from anyway? How did it get here? It wasn't a question I ever felt to be so urgent or pressing when I was your age. Back then, we were all just trying to be like everyone else. We wanted to fit in. We wanted to be part of the crowd. How and why has this question become so central to our moment? I wonder. We didn't even realize it. It happened. And here's the point I want to make. The first point, of course. When we are so busy asking what makes us all individual and unique, we stop asking other questions. Other questions that are not being forced upon us every day and in everything we do. And the one question in particular which gets pushed into that silent zone is this. What makes us similar? What do we share? And what makes me ordinary? These are also really important questions, I think. In order to make more change, to sort of take more charge of these processes of change that are happening, in order to maybe slow down these processes, or to maybe steer it a little bit away from I and more toward the realm of us, we really need to rely on our evolutionary inheritance. We need to use our communication and our social skills. We need to talk. We need to share. We need to express, emote, converse. We need to laugh and we need to cry. And yes, unfortunately, I'm sorry, we need to offend one another from time to time. We need to be human. That's what we need to do. We're not doing these things so well, I'd say. at this particular moment in human history. Not in the big world. And also not here in our little place. Again, that's how it appears to me from my anthropological perspective. Let's look around for a minute. Why is this room so empty? Where are the rest of your colleagues? Are they sleeping in?
Yes.
Thank you, Richard and Fatima, for being here. But where are the rest of my colleagues? We really need to talk. Where's our executive board? No. Sorry. I mean, where are our fellow human beings? Yes, Chef and Etienne, where are you? You were invited. I know you were invited. Where are you? Please join us here for some old-fashioned Homo sapiens sapient communication. I warmly invite you. You're so welcome. Where are our board of trustees? Those human beings who are entrusted to keep a close eye on us, all of us. We don't even know you. But we really need to talk. And lastly, where is Utrecht University? Our mothership. The ones who appoint us as professors of this community of learning. The ones that award you your degrees, hopefully. The ones that appoint our leaders. You, where are you? You're there somewhere. We hear you humming away, sort of in the background like one of those algorithms. But we don't see you, and we don't know one another. We really need to talk. And we've been told, I don't know how many times and from whom actually, that we have to come out of our silos to enable the type of education someone unknown and or unseen is prescribing. Have you heard that? We have to come out of our silos. Here at UCR, I don't think we've ever been in silos. Not since we began this experiment 21 years ago. Richard, Fatima. It's just my anthropological perspective from someone who's been here for those 21 years. We've never been in silos. We stand here before you right now in no silo. We are together. Maybe one of the reasons you, whoever you are, haven't been able to recognize that is because, and here is a slightly funny irony I have to say, those accusing us of silo thinking all remain locked away at this very moment, I presume, in secret, hidden bunkers. Yeah. We're out of the silo. Where's everyone else? They're in bunkers. They're hiding behind NDAs that serve no purpose except to block our species' ability to communicate. To those of you who have fled to the bunker, and those of you who have been forced to the bunker, come out and talk with us. Come out and communicate. Come out and socialize. Come out and be part of a project to create these spaces, these sacred, every day, more and more sacred spaces, where we can still be human together, where we can communicate and exchange and share and disagree and, yes, even offend. That's what UCR was all about. That's what UCR was meant to be about. That is what UCR, or at least a large chunk of it, still wants to be about. And that is one of the things we really, really need to talk about. Come, let's talk. For those of you out there who may be hearing me on the live stream, because I understand this live stream is being broadcast all over the country. Large-scale intensive communication. It's at the other university colleges, I hear, are listening in on this. Our friends over there. They're listening right now. Some of your parents in India, they're sitting there around the dinner table listening to us talk. Please, Etienne, Chef, fellow bunker members, fellow human beings, come and join us for this difficult conversation. Let's be human together. Well, I don't know if they're getting the message, they're listening in on live stream, but please, there's plenty of space here for you. Come and join us in some old-fashioned communication. Introduction 1. Let me start over. Let me take a sip of water before. So let me begin this lecture by trying to explain the title, which is Anthropological Theory is Practice, or Why Your LAS Education Matters, with a subtitle, A Farewell Lecture, Most Likely. Not a total surprise to me, but when the first print of today's lecture announcement came out, it accidentally mistitled my lecture. It called it Anthropological Theory in Practice. I caught it, luckily, but I had to chuckle about this innocent, though revealing typo. I do not want to think together about how to put theory into practice. My intention this morning is to try to argue and then let you try to find out for yourself that in anthropology, at least, theory is practice. Yeah, there's a distinction there. Secondly, my lecture title implies correctly that I want to ask a big question, like us anthropologists do, like philosophers do, like artists do, like musicians do, like historians do, like literary theorists do, like all the critical social scientists do. And that big question is simply, why does LAS education matter? But in the process, I want to do that thing that us anthropologists have always done, right? I want to think about that very big question in a very small place. And that is why I've inserted the word your into my title. Your LAS education. And that very small place is here, in our community, at your university, at our university. And then there's that admittedly provocative subtitle, I admit it, a farewell lecture, most likely. A farewell to what? To whom? These are difficult, big questions. Well, to begin with, it's a farewell to the humanities, and the so-called softer social sciences, the human sciences. Not only here at UCR, but in the Netherlands, and across Europe, and in the United States. What we are experiencing here is really just part of a much bigger frame that we need to embed our own little place into. From my anthropological perspective, then, a perspective that is intrinsically and unabashedly humanistic in its approach, we seem to be heading into what I am beginning to think about. My students are like, what comes after postmodernity? Here it is. Here it is. I got it. I'm thinking about it. We are beginning to head into a post-human era. Modernity to postmodernity, and from postmodernity to post-humanity. The era of post-humanity. And what I mean by that is that us humans are building a world that, after having successfully conquered nature, or so we declare, now seems to be turning in on itself in an attempt to conquer ourselves, our own species, believe it or not. We are doing that in so many different ways. You are doing that in so many different ways. We're relying more and more every day on machines to think for us, whether it be Google or ChatGPT. And we are now blindly running as fast as we can toward AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. You've heard about it. It's a project that explicitly aims to transcend ourselves. There's so many other examples to consider. Look around you, you'll see them. And many of you will know that us anthropologists, we have spent our discipline's life studying our own species in all of its manifestations. From inception to present, you know here what I teach, it's only one tiny sliver of that. The biological anthropologists have been looking at our evolution. The linguistic anthropologists have been looking at the evolution of our language and the importance of communication. The archaeologists have been looking at our deceased human predecessors to understand how they lived. That's what our discipline has been doing. So what makes us the kind of animals, the special kind of animals that we are? Well, number one. No, these are in no particular order. This is on my list, number one. Yeah, this. The thumb. Our thumb is a revolution. That little digit, that single digit on our hands brought us so far along. It got us out of the trees. It enabled us to make and hold tools. Our ability to communicate is absolutely unique. And the extent to which we have mastered that craft over all other animals. I've spoken about it already in my other introduction. Our innate sociability is unmatched. We are the most social of all animals, and it is that sociability that has helped us achieve so much. We could not be Homo sapiens sapiens alone. My list continues. We are such an adaptable species. Like no others. Incredible. And you all have had the fortune to experience that firsthand. Yeah, think about it. Think about what we did a few years ago, collectively as a species, during the COVID epidemic. It's like a miracle. How did that happen? We stopped the entire global economy. We put all our efforts into developing new means to control and defeat nature. And we did it. And we lost a lot of people along the way. And there was a lot of suffering. But in such a short period of time, what we were able to do, us, together, is like a miracle. Think about it. Pause. Give it some credit. Give us, Homo sapiens sapiens, some credit. Only us, only humans can do that. For now, at least. I'm going still down my list. Another one. We are incredibly habitual, us human beings. We are creatures of habit. We love habit. We adapt fast, and then we settle into our habits just as quickly. Ask my wife. She'll tell you for sure. We started walking during COVID. We haven't stopped. And now, all of you, a lot of you, are walking with me. I get invitations all the time. Come for a walk with me. Yeah, I'm walking. I can't get out of that habit. We adapt fast. We settle into our habits just as quickly. And then there's this thing, our brains, our intellect, our emotions, our desires, all of that stuff that we attribute to our brain, that organ. It's friggin' incredible. Our brains are special among the living. We are really, really lucky to have them. Yep. So when I stand up here and try to argue from my anthropological perspective, it seems to me that I am left seeing us heading blindly toward what I am now going to call a post-human period of our development. I'm thinking about how we're busy creating a world, a society, a little community that is looking desperately, I think, to transcend ourselves. Us Homo sapiens have essentially, and in my estimation, and probably many of yours, quite prematurely declared victory in our human struggles with nature. It was the invention of human culture, many will argue, that enabled us to transcend nature. The COVID epidemic is a great recent case in point. We slaughtered nature. But we could go farther back. We could start with fire. When humans gained control of fire, then there was domesticated plants and animals. Whew. That was the biggest revolution ever, I think. And then we learned to build homes. We got out of the caves. We could be protected from the rain and the wind and the lightning, the cold, and on it goes. So what I mean is that so much that is transpiring around us, both near and far, big places and little places too, including UCR, seems to me to be pushing in a direction that will eventually usher in a post-human era. We are trying. That sounds too deliberate. But the unintended effects remain nonetheless. What I'm seeing in this regard is a society that is caught up in a process that is restricting our ability to communicate, that is restricting our abilities to be social, and that is restricting our abilities to make use of that great big brain of ours. Think again about how people communicate these days. And think about how people do not communicate. Think about how people are social these days and how they are no longer social. Think about how people are and are no longer using their brains. And how we seemingly turn this gift over to machines. Ask my dear beloved colleague, Richard. We sit together on the board of examiners here. ChatGPT, ChatGPT, ChatGPT. You know what? I have some bad news for you. Or good news, or funny news. You know, those of you submitting ChatGPT papers, you know who's starting to grade them? I'm serious. I'm dead bloody serious. Who is starting to grade the ChatGPT papers that you submit because you went out last night, got drunk, forgot about your paper assignment, and thought, I'll wing it with ChatGPT. Who's grading that paper? Tell me. Mine. ChatGPT! I'm not telling you a lie. Professors are using ChatGPT to correct your ChatGPT. This is happening in real life here. I kid you not, it is happening here. Crazy. What I will want to be asking you today is to try and pose these big questions. Not in the types of very small places that are much familiar to us anthropologists and us anthropology students. Those faraway weird places. Those faraway exotic places of last century. No. I want to urge you to ask these very big questions in your own very small places. And in our very small place that is UCR. So all of that having been said, one of the farewells. I'm still trying to explain my lecture title, believe it or not, if you've lost this in the plot. I didn't give out a lecture outline today, I'm sorry. But I'm trying to explain the title of to introduce my lecture with the title. So one of the farewells in my farewell lecture is a sort of early farewell to our species as we know it. Sorry if that sounds overly dramatic, it probably is. It works. But it is also a sort of farewell to those fields of knowledge that when us Homo sapiens sapiens were targeting, or were not targeting ourselves, but when we were targeting nature still, became so central to our purpose, right? And that is, of course, the humanities and the human sciences. Back in the day when us humans had come to recognize how special we actually were, how unique we were, when we treasured that gift to be so unique, we naturally found ways and means to both explore that specialness, like the field of anthropology, sociology, philosophy, and history, and simultaneously express that specialness through, for example, the arts, and music, and literature. But if my suspicions are correct, it feels to me like our species seems to be taking a sort of victory lap. It's declared its victory over nature, prematurely again in my estimation, and now it is turning to defeat itself. Why continue to explore ourselves and to express ourselves when we as a species are getting so near to transcending ourselves? So my lecture is a sort of farewell to the humanities and the human sciences, because they're really not that important anymore. There's a story circulating. You hear it all the time. It's buzzing also in the background. It's a very powerful story. We've all bought into the story. We're believing in the story. Essentially, that story, that narrative, that discourse is this. The only way to survive as a species is to transcend ourselves. That's the story. That's the story of AI. That's the story of AGI. That is the story of those people we fetishize, we admire, like Elon Musk and his billionaire buddies. And now apparently the US government, who are busy trying, among other things, to transcend human life on Earth by promoting the interplanetization of our species, or to invent and bring to life cyborg technologies, even though we're sort of halfway there already as a technology. I mean, we're all sort of cyborgs, we just don't have it yet embedded in our bodies, it's just sort of in our pockets. iPhone.
Hi, Joe.
And here I have to make a small digression, because last night, this is another friggin' unbelievable story, and I swear to God it's so true. Last night, while I'm sitting there at my computer trying to formulate what I want to say, thinking about this stuff, right at that moment, something small but extraordinary happened. I swear this is 100% true. It's as true as the meat car that can cast us on. I received an email from a student at 5:06 p.m. crying out for help. I want to read it to you. If the student is in the room, don't worry, I'm not going to out you. Dear Professor, I hope this email finds you well. Last night, 5:06 p.m. Student writes, I still don't understand why we study humans. I wish you could help me find some meaning. I swear to God. It's a great question. It's a big question. It's an important question. But it's a question that, if you pick it apart, is asking, why do we even need to care about us humans anymore? It's a post-human era question. This is post-humanity. Help me understand why we need to study humans. Help me find the meaning. It's a brilliant question. And it arrived at a brilliant time. For me, for us, for all of us. It's crazy. Like the stars are all lining up today. Okay, let me get back to the conversation that I'm hoping to spark. I want us to try and do that anthropological thing. And it really isn't something us anthropologists do often enough. In fact, we never do it. They do it best in Scandinavia. We don't do it often enough. And I want to stay with some of these big questions. And I want to return to our little small selves, our little small selves, in our little small place. How do we here at UCR communicate or fail to communicate? How are we here at UCR social? And how are we not social? Are we becoming more or less communicative? Are we becoming more or less social? Are we using our brains, or are too many of you, are too many of us relying on ChatGPT to answer our questions and our big questions? And here is a very big question for our very small place. Are we here at UCR giving up on being human? That's a big question. Just got to recharge for that. Are we here at UCR, it's true, I'm not lying to you either. Are we here at UCR giving up on being human? Big questions. Small place. So along with the humanities and some of the allied social sciences, I guess, the farewell part of my talk is also a farewell to anthropology, which most likely my anthropological sensibilities teach me will be soon laid to rest. Our discipline, one that has been trying, even in its often flawed and imperfect state, for all of you decoloniality folks out there. With all of our discipline's flaws, it has been trying to better understand the human condition, to better understand what it means to be human everywhere. So it's sort of funny to me. Might we be laying anthropology to rest because we humans are starting to find the subject of our discipline, humans, irrelevant? This is a farewell to anthropology in the capitalist post-human economy of knowledge. And it is a farewell to anthropology at UCR. And while I'm at it, and given that, well, I'm still the last anthropologist standing here, it must be a farewell lecture for me too. So I hope all that explains the farewell aspect of my lecture title. Now there's still that last element of my title, the most likely part. I should try to explain that too. Why most likely? Well, first of all, we don't really know anything yet. We know nothing. We know we're going to have big class sizes. That's all we know. Here in our small place, we seem to have sort of given up on communication. Our own reps, the ones we have elected to try their best to represent us, and they do and have tried their best, have been silenced by those NDAs, those threats of legal action. Our leaders have retreated to secret bunkers somewhere where they have been making decisions and plans behind all of our backs without communication. I mean, for goodness sakes, in the last 18 months, I lost my blue pigeon tray. Used to be there. It's been hijacked. It was just over there in plain view for my students to put papers in. It was taken away when I went to investigate where it was. It was locked behind a door. The doorway that leads up to my and my colleagues' offices, the one students need to open in order to communicate with us, has been permanently locked. The beautiful UCR weekly communication letter has been declared email non grata. Gone. And I kid you not, another true story, not so long ago, I returned to my office after a lecture to find that, without notice, my telephone had been removed. Gone.
How many phone calls did you ever get on that telephone?
That's beside the point.
No, it's a good question, Richard. You know, I got 0. You know why? You know why? Because I told everyone, come and talk to me. I don't want to talk to you on a telephone. We're here. We're together. Let's be human together. I asked what happened, Richard. Where's my telephone? No longer necessary, I was told. Okay, these are mere symbols. But what they also reveal is that there is less and less opportunity for human communication, for human dialogue, for human discussion, for human exchange. Hello, post-human UCR. So because we, in this supposed bastion of liberal education, have stopped being human in these sorts of ways, we sit here together facing the unknown, uncertainty, fog. But, and here is a bit of good news, because it is still so unclear at this moment, we are also able to cling to some hope. And so maybe, just maybe, my farewells might also be a bit premature. These most likely elements of my title are also a bit of a hedge, I'd say, against what anthropology has taught me over the years. One of those things is to always question oneself, to be reflective. That's another, I should add that to the list of what makes. Well, us Homo sapiens, we can reflect on ourselves. Yeah, anthropology taught me that. To question ourselves. And my anthropology tells me that I might just be wrong. Maybe, if I was a hardcore mathematician. Richard, are you a hardcore mathematician?
Somewhat.
I could rest more comfortably. Math is the truest and most accurate predictor of truth. Right? Richard?
Perhaps.
Okay. Here, how great math is. Yeah, math is fantastic. It's beautiful. But should we, in general, and in our moment, put all of our apples into that basket? Or should we also think about other forms of knowledge? Our other ways of knowing and inhabiting this fine earth. And therefore, my most likely farewell emerges out of my unwillingness to rely only on math, or rationality, or numbers, or statistics, or the modern hard sciences. I also have to rely on all the other ways there are to learn about and to know and to be in this world. I'm really sorry, I'm not much of a gambling man. But my anthropological inclinations lead me, in this small place, in this small case, to renounce your math, Richard. Anthropology and the vision that it has bestowed upon me tells me that math is wrong in this instance. So I'm going to go out on a sort of limb here for you and say that this most likely farewell even though the math odds say I'm making a mistake, I'm still going to do it. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say this most likely part of my farewell is a farewell to anthropology and to an anthropologist at UCR. I really, really hope Richard and his math are correct. Okay, still one other thing about my most likely aspect of my title. It's not all doom and gloom. It's not all doom and gloom. There is hope invested in that element as well. I want to also cast some doubt here. And the main elements of that doubt relate to you all and to those of us other members of this learning community that feel that the spaces we have been trying to build here over the past 21 years are worth fighting for. The spaces that we have been trying to build along with our fellow Homo sapiens who live here in Middleburg and you have never met, along with the fellow Homo sapiens who live in the province of Zeeland. We have been trying to build this place for 21 years together. I find that there's still a little doubt to cast. It's a place worth fighting for. Woo! Fighting for. To me, for me, these are valuable spaces. They're free spaces. They're exploratory spaces. They're safe spaces to think and discover and ask really big, sometimes stupid questions. These are sacred spaces in the anthropological jargon, in the sociological jargon of Durkheim. These are sacred spaces. And in fact, for me, these are absolutely necessary spaces for being human. So maybe, just maybe, the end of this movie is still to be written. And that is why this is only a most likely farewell. Which brings me to the start of my lecture in its next rendition. I'm starting to understand why I retitled. I plugged in the recharge, and that brings me to the start of my lecture. The third option goes something like this. I'm giving a farewell lecture, most likely. And because it hasn't really been written yet, and because I'm not really sure what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it, I want to begin with some preemptive apologies. I, like all of us, I am a human being. And that means, like you, like all of us, I am prone to making mistakes. We, Homo sapiens sapiens, are prone to fucking things up. It's really part of our evolutionary inheritance. So I will probably express myself poorly at times. I will say the things I want to say in the wrong way. I will likely say things that I will soon wish I had not said. I will not say things that I will have wanted to say. But I will speak from my heart, and I will try to connect it to my brain. And I have to accept, and you have to accept, that I may offend you. But really, I don't want to, and I don't mean to. So I'm really sorry if I do. I need to also apologize both preemptively and post-preemptively for talking too much and for too long. I know I'm a big mouth. I know I am bad at sticking to the time. And after all, I didn't win the most likely to go overtime award from the yearbook committee a few years ago. I would really like to blame my poor time management skills. No, I take that back. I would really like to blame my poor Dutch time management skills on the 6 years I lived in Namibia. Etienne, our managing director, will know exactly what I'm talking about. He comes from there. My professional life began in that faraway place when I was not that much older than you all are. And in Namibia, there's the now time, and there's the just now time. Are you know Namibia? Like you're wearing a swappo. So now time means any time between now and, say, the next 4 hours. Professor, can I have a word with you? Yeah, now. Between 1 minute and 4 hours. While just now time means sort of anything between, say, 4 hours and 2 weeks. I'll come around your house just now. But quite honestly, it's not Namibia's fault. It's really my own. So I apologize for all that stuff too. Sorry, I'm human. You know, it means so many things to be human. And that includes being emotional and emotive. I'm going to stand here and be human, and that means, and I really fear this aspect of my being human, I may, no, I probably will, or maybe I already have, become emotional, and I may even have to cry. You guys made me cry here. And I apologize for that in advance too. I'm sorry. I'm human. And you know, while I'm in the middle of the process of apologizing for
Don't
things.
apologize for being human.
I'm sorry to do that, Ro. While I'm in the middle of the process of apologizing for all sorts of things, maybe I can just sneak one email to my wife. Honey, I'm really sorry for hogging the blanket last night.
You made that up.
I do love my students, but not that much. And lastly, in the spirit of the times, I should also deliver that ubiquitous and seemingly necessary trigger warning. what I want to talk about, and to be honest with you, I still don't have a clear idea myself because I'm sort of taking a trick out of your handbook. You know that one that you always do, waiting to the last minute and just winging it. But what I need to say before I can go any further is that what I want to talk about may trigger you. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean you students. This is a trigger warning to my colleagues, actually. To my bosses, to Chef and Etienne, and to the human beings that I've never met, but who supervise our bosses, our board of trustees. And finally, this is also a trigger warning to those who are programming the UU algorithm that hums ever so quietly in the background. This lecture may trigger you. You have been duly informed. Here's the fourth introduction I was working on. It goes something like this. Let's start today's lecture afresh. Once I gave in fully to my anthropological sensibilities, once I realized that I am most likely delivering my farewell lecture, I spent some time reflecting on myself. How am I feeling as a fellow human being? And after some while, I was left with sort of two answers to that question. One that sort of relates to us, and one that relates to me more personally. And first, the one that relates to us. I feel sad, really. But not in a depressed sort of way. I don't feel depressed. I feel sad. I don't know, I described it the other day. It's like how I feel when I'm in the cinema, watching like a real tearjerker. You know what I mean. You get teary-eyed, you get sad, but you're not depressed, right? In fact, you're not even that worried because on some level, whatever you're feeling is sort of contrived. It's not real. Or say, it's not everlasting. You will be released from it soon. And you know the movie will come to an end and you will return to real life. So on the one hand, I sort of viscerally feel like I'm sitting in a movie house with you all, watching this university drama film on the screen. Let's say Julia Roberts.
She's here.
It's a tearjerker. But I'm not existential. Sad is just a film. But as I'm watching, I have to pause. The film we are watching is not just on screen, it's sort of our life we are watching. Our experience. It's a true life story in real time. Unlike a real movie in which you just sort of suck it up and push through your tears because you know you can't change the outcome of the film and that anyway you will soon be brought back to your real life. I feel like I'm sitting here watching this sad film, feeling that kind of filmy sadness together with you all. But at the same time, I'm also realizing that the end of this movie actually hasn't been written yet. It hasn't. And that all of us who are sitting here together watching this film, feeling like we are watching this film together, may actually be able to contribute to the writing of its ending. I feel sad for us, with us, but I don't feel resigned. And as for how I am feeling personally, I also feel sad. I feel sad not because I will most likely lose my job. And for those of you who have spent time walking around the footpaths of Middleburg will know, a second gap decade offers opportunity too. It does. I feel personally sad, really, because the spaces that have given me and always given me so much oxygen in my personal day-to-day working life are disappearing all around me. The classroom, those small classrooms of ours, filled with cool young people like yourselves, people from all over the world, across the spectrum of what it means to be human, trying our best to feel safe together, to know one another, to ask big questions together, sometimes stupid, crazy questions, conversing, arguing, exchanging, sharing, being, all those beautiful little things about being human that take place in those small spaces of our classroom. For me personally, that has been my professional oxygen over the last 21 years. And those spaces and that oxygen are disappearing before my eyes. They're disappearing before your eyes. I mean, just look around. Just look around the room for a second. Look around. I went off to celebrate Christmas. I came back. Where I'm standing right now, where we are sitting together, this used to be 2 spaces. I swear, I thought I was going mad. It's 1. The space is gone. It's disappearing before our very eyes. Those sacred spaces are leaving us. Two more oxygen tanks. Gone. Just in this building. There were 4 classes here. Now there are 2. Oxygen depletion. So I feel sad on a personal level because I most likely, I'm still hedging here, won't have that anymore for myself. Sad. And now finally, let me serve up my 5th and final introduction to this lecture. That my students out there are waiting for, especially my intro students, many of you are here, because it's the one I'm constantly asking them to deliver themselves. So here goes. The aim of this lecture is to explore some really big questions in one really small place so that you all can figure out how to make this place what it is meant to be, which is your place.
That's
The objectives of this lecture are, number 1, to be able to identify some of the things that makes our liberal arts and science experiment in this little place so important and so special. Number 2, to allow you to see how your liberal arts and sciences education and my field of anthropology are, in fact, totally kindred. They're kin to one another. Objective number 3, to be able to see and know what it means when I say anthropology is practice. 4, to be able to list 5 concrete practices that anthropological theory inspires in this little place at this little time. The roadmap is as follows. First, after I tell you the roadmap, we will take a break and catch our breaths. And then I want us to work together, to reflect together, here in this large-scale and intensive setting, on this question: what makes our little liberal arts and sciences experiment here at UCR so special? And a student, I hope, will be leading that discussion with all of you. Then, I would like another group of students to follow with a short presentation on the question of this: what is so distinctive about anthropology as a human science? And why is its way of knowing so kindred to the LAS philosophy? Then we will turn to our ethnography in smaller groups. Discussions again facilitated by your peers. 5 groups, 5 big ideas derived from 5 small, faraway places a long time ago. Right? And then we're going to try and figure out together what it means to say that anthropological theory is practice. And I especially want to try to help you figure out what that means for your little place, for our little place. And I will be wanting to make use of some old. Very old. Apparently out of date. Sometimes, perhaps almost always, admittedly colonial-inspired texts to help you in your struggle. Not only for those who are struggling against what's happening at this moment in this little place of ours, but also for those of you who are struggling to find your way in this often confusing world. Anthropological theory is practice because, on the one hand, I would argue that we all are already anthropologists. All humans are anthropologists. But secondly, I would argue also that the pursuit of asking big questions in the few small places left in society where that still remains possible, like UCR, right now, today, is indeed practice. Asking questions, big questions, and not even worrying about whether or not we can answer them correctly, not even trying to answer them correctly, just to ask them, helps us understand the world around us. And it helps us understand how to live, how to be, and very, very importantly, how to act in and on our world. And to be more specific with this aspect of my roadmap, my intention is to use the work of Branislav Malinowski. Here, this old guy. Based on his fieldwork in Melanesia back in 1915, or thereabouts, in order to help us think about how we, as differently situated human beings in space and time, learn about difference. You guys love to tear these guys apart. You know, we are all colonialists. Yeah. Yeah, you And his blood brother on the other side of the Atlantic, in the US, Franz Boas, he was also a product of his day. But you know what Franz Boas did? I'm going off tangent here, but Franz Boas was the first guy in the academic world to stand up and say, we are not different people because of race. Humans are not separated by race. Just because people look different and act different and live differently is not a result of race. He claimed, he argued to all of his contemporaries at the time, he was the only one. He said, this is about culture. Culture. It's not race. There's no natural explanation for difference. It's cultural, it's historical, it's social. And he spent his entire life trying to get that point through. And that's why this student, who you've read, Margaret Mead, was sent off to Samoa to ask that question. He spent his whole life, he developed cultural anthropology in the United States to prove, because he wanted to show and prove scientifically his theory that people are not of a different race. They are of different cultures. So he trained up young people like you. He sent them out all over the world. He spent his whole life to build this field of knowledge. To prove that. Yeah, he was a product of his time. But he was there, and anthropology was there to ask the big, difficult questions at that time. You don't have time for both of these. You'll read Malinowski together, and you'll think about how he and his method, because he was doing the same thing on the other side of the Atlantic, was helping us learn and know in a different way, with all its flaws. And then I want you to look at the work of another old guy. Where is he? Another old guy. E. Evans Pritchard, and his theories of witchcraft, based on his work among the Azande in Sudan, colonial Sudan. What does witchcraft circa 1935 Sudan have to teach us about our little place? Right here, right now. That's the question. And then I'd like you to move on to Max Gluckman. Max Gluckman. You'll remember his name, maybe not. Gluckman worked in Southern Africa. His big ideas about ritual, particularly his ideas about rituals of rebellion, are really interesting. What might the annual First Fruits Festival in the former Swaziland in the 1940s and 50s have to do with your strike? I don't know. Figure it out. Anthropology in practice. And then on to that philosopher of ours. He's not an anthropologist. We're not going to blame him. But you know, like you'll see after lunch, after the break, I mean, we are very kindred to the liberal education. And this guy, this philosopher, many of you seem to enjoy, as do I, Michel Foucault, right? And his unusual and productive understanding of power. Does Foucault's diffuse conception of power and disciplinary power help us see our current moment any differently? Does it help point our practice in a productive direction? We'll discuss that. And then finally, I want you to discuss the work of Lila Abu-Lucha, an anthropologist, who has something important to say about resistance, based on her work with And after all that, if you can still stay with me, I'm going to be with you guys. I want to send you all the way to try and find some practices in the work of these anthropologists, in the work of these philosophers, in the works of these humanists, these social scientists, these philosophers. In all these big ideas. And I want you to do so by thinking with and through your little place in order to see and to find the practice in all this theory. It is there. Anthropology and anthropological theory is practice. And maybe after all of that discussion with one another, this process, this learning process can assist you in figuring your way through this small place at this small time. And finally, the last turn in this roadmap is for you all to go out there into our little place and actually practice anthropology. Make this little place your little place. Make it into what you want it to be, into what you need it to be. And maybe also after that, after this, I should revise the title of my lecture one more time. Maybe we should retitle today's lecture to this: Anthropological Theory is Practice, or Why Your LAS Education Matters. A farewell message. Most likely, but maybe not.